And you're now the voice in New York.
That ain't true. Don't lie to that, man.
Ask around. You better ask somebody.
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I don't need to
get familiar, Stephen A.
Right.
Oh, my God.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Can everyone just settle down for a moment? Max,
We
seriously,
all settled,
though.
Molly.
When they come back, Max, who's under more pressure? Is it LeBron or AD? Finally, I got the question out.
It's LeBron. The answer is always LeBron. History, AD is a great player. He's going to go down as an all-time great now that he has the championship, and he's already put up the numbers, right? The question was, will AD ever wind up with enough championships that he could push Tim Duncan for the number one spot all-time at power forward? LeBron is always under the most pressure. Basically, if the question is basketball in this era, the answer is LeBron, the way once upon a time it was, Jordan is the answer to any basketball question. Of course, that's what we're all going to remember. That's what this is about. LeBron James, since before he even turned pro, the eyes of the basketball world were on him, and the eyes of history are on him. And how many championships will he wind up with? Where is he going to rank among the all-time great Lakers? Can he take a team, provided he and AD are both healthy, right? If they're both back, can he take a team to a championship, to win a championship? Or did he fail to do so, especially if they couldn't get out of the Western Conference? No one's going to care about the details. LeBron had AD with him. If those two are both on the floor, LeBron will be under more pressure than anyone to get to the finals.
Max Kellerman, I got a strange answer for you to this question. The more pressure is on Anthony Davis, not LeBron James.
What'd you know about, Stephen?
If LeBron James doesn't face the Clippers. If he faces the Clippers and it's him against Kawhi.
I see what you're saying.
Then it's different. Then we looking at LeBron. It's like, let me tell you, let me just be very Captain Obvious here about what you can expect on first take. If the Clippers go up against the Lakers, you're going to see me sitting here every morning. What you going to do? What's up? You remember Kawhi, the crown dangling from the mirror, driving in the convertible in the streets of L.A. I have a ride. Remember that? It's going to be a question of both of them. Both of them. What's up? See, here's the thing about me. And this is what I'm going to try to be as incredibly respectful as I possibly can be. A lot of these damn NBA players today get on my last damn nerves. Because they've forgotten, from a fan's perspective, what basketball is all about. Of course, it's a team game. Of course, you share the basketball. Listen, man, I was raised in this business practically by Larry Brown. He was one of the big. Remember, Max, not just Big House Gaines and the late, great John McClendon as well, who helped integrate the sport of basketball. My first two jobs after doing high school reporting for the New York Daily News for 1 year. The first two people I covered in basketball was John Chaney and Larry Brown. Okay? And who talked about playing the right way more than them? So I get it, and I understand team concept. You understand defensive scheme, offensive scheme, sharing the basketball, being unselfish, being selfless, trusting your teammates, et cetera, et cetera. That's why movies like Any Given Sunday, Friday Night Lights, and all of these other things, are riveting to me because I heard that kind of talk before. But in the sport of basketball, at some point in time, it's me and you. Even though it's a team game and we got guys around, it's me and you. And there's so many of today's players that want to throw that off. They want to shove that aside. They don't want you looking for the one-on-one matchup. And one of the reasons why I always appreciated the greatness of Kobe, the greatness of MJ, guys like that, is because when you put them in the face of a confrontation and you said, excuse me, somebody talking, or somebody said this, they're like, really? Michael Jordan one time in a press conference, I forgot who it was against. Somebody said that, I don't know if it was Jeff Van Gundy and a couple of the Knicks. Somebody said something. And MJ said, okay. They got up and walked out when the press conference was over, Max. Turns around and said, who said that again? You see what I'm saying? So everybody knew. All he said was, who said that again? And everybody knew. Oh, damn. Oh, it's going to be something. It's going to be something. And so many of today's players rob us of that. Because they don't want to engage, because they don't want the media to make something out of it. They don't want social media to make. It's basketball. And when you have a one-on-one confrontation, even though it's a team game, I don't know about anybody else. I am dying, more so than the championship. I am dying to see LeBron straight up against Kawhi Leonard with a conference title on the line.
Well, here,
That's what I want.
Let me say this quickly.
That's what I want.
I appreciate your point. I don't disagree with it in this sense. Like, this game ain't about Montrezl Harrell versus Serge Ibaka, right? On the poster, the fight is the heavyweight championship.
Preach, Maximilian. Preach.
And Kawhi. I'll say this too. A lot of sports is you got to beat your man. You got to win your matchup. You know, Aaron Donald's Aaron Donald because he's going to beat his. But you got to put two guys on him. One guy, he's going to win that matchup.
That's different.
So his team,
right?
And the reason basketball has been, along with boxing, barbershop talk basically, is because it can boil down to this guy or this guy differently than football or baseball or other sports. I'll just say this: LeBron's game has always been part magic, part Michael. He is not exactly like Jordan.
Not asking him to be.
And Kawhi is actually more like that. Kawhi is more of the individual, but even his mentality is not about beating you. It's about helping the team win. You have two guys who play the game the right way. What you're asking them to do is play the game the right way plus.
That's it.
Plus.
But that's what we want. That's what we want. Tell me you don't want that.
I can't disagree.
Tell me you don't want that. That's what we want.
I'm a basketball fan.
That's what we want.
All right, fellas.
Go back to the finals. If he's not, the Lakers go out maybe in the first round. It's that dramatic of a shift if Anthony Davis is not healthy. I would tell you that the Clippers will be right there, and I can't sleep on the Denver Nuggets. I've been thinking about Utah. I've been thinking about, obviously, the Portland Trail Blazers because of that backcourt with Dame and CJ and what they bring to the table. And I like the fact that they picked up power from Toronto as well, although I'm wondering how many of those mid-sized guys do you need, 6'5", 6'6", that kind of thing. I'm wondering about that, but nevertheless, it is what it is. What I would tell you is this. Denver, keeping Michael Porter Jr., having the Joker, having Jamal Murray, and adding Aaron Gordon to the mix. This dude, he can be physical, from a physicality perspective. He can be one of those individuals that's helping to guard LeBron and others. He's a legit 6'8". He's a Skywalker. He's averaged 14 this year, shooting about, 37% from three-point range, 43% from the field. He's a big-time addition to the Denver Nuggets, and I definitely think is an incredible plus that could put Denver over the hump potentially. It's something interesting. Remember, they had Jeremy Grant last year, who obviously was incredibly impressive and ended up getting that big contract from Detroit because of it. This guy, to me, is on that level, if not better, in terms of what he's going to be capable of doing for the Denver Nuggets. Not to mention the fact that he can help, because you had Millsap there for years, who's an age-old veteran, very, very savvy and can be on a roster, but nevertheless, that's what you had. This guy, Aaron Gordon, brings that to the table. So I would tell you right now, Utah can't be ignored, but neither can Denver. So I'm looking at Utah, the Clippers, and Denver battling. If the Lakers don't have Anthony Davis, one of those three, it's a crapshoot right there. And even if they have Anthony Davis, it's going to be a rough out. They're going to make it a rough out.
Well, Anthony Davis is the whole key, as you said.
Yeah.
Just keep in mind, LeBron and AD are so good together. And no, they don't have Rondo anymore, and that may be an issue, but Schroeder's a good player. Think about what Denver did in last year's playoffs. They beat Utah in an all-time great first-round series. Yeah. And then they go on to knock off the Clippers, come from behind. And they were no match for the Lakers. I mean, Jokic and Murray were both playing at MVP level. And there's a difference between, MVP level, apparently, and what LeBron and AD can do. They were no match for the Lakers. But adding Aaron Gordon, especially if AD may not be 100%, Aaron Gordon, besides everything else, from everything I know about him, he's a good guy, right? Like, he'll be good for the locker room and all that stuff.
Right.
But he's also, as you mentioned, a Skywalker who, so far this year, is finally hitting his threes at an acceptable level, even more, almost 38% from three. He's taken 4 of them a game. That really adds something, because you have to remember when you look at this Nuggets roster, it's not just that they have Jamal Murray, who's normally an excellent player, maybe like an all-star level player, is that they have playoff Rondo, playoff Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray, what he showed in the playoffs last year is he goes from maybe an all-star to an MVP when you need him most. You put that together with Jokic, a guy having one of the greatest offensive seasons ever, and you have Porter Jr. hitting shots, and now you have Aaron Gordon. That's a whole lot. And I would just also tell you, because we've been through all the teams, the West, you're swimming with sharks. You mentioned Denver, you mentioned Utah, Stephen A., the Lakers, the Clippers, the Blazers add Powell. The Mavs added J.J. Redick.
Yes.
The Mavs are my sleeper team in the playoffs anyway. Don't let
You know how I feel about J.J. Redick. We know what a fan I am of J.J. Redick. I hate the fact that the Sixers lost him. I always thought that the Sixers should have found a way to keep J.J. Redick, regardless of what you pointed out about his defensive liability. So I think that that's a big pickup for the Dallas Mavericks because you lost Seth Curry. And you need somebody, and even though Seth Curry, could arguably a better pure shooter per se, you know what? And he's a little bit big, or at least he appears to be. Here's the thing: J.J. Redick's ability to move without the basketball is what you cannot minimize, because you got to have eyes in the back of your head watching everywhere he is, because you still can't leave him open. And getting back to Denver, I don't even understand, Max, how there was even a discussion as to whether or not the Denver Nuggets would consider trading Michael Porter Jr. I will remind everybody, this brother,
he's offensively
this
special.
brother is listen, we know his injury history, but this dude right here is averaging 16 a game. He shoot 52% from the field. He shoot like 43% from three-point range.
Yep.
I mean, what? And he just gets started. He's 22.
Yep.
Listen, going on Michael Porter.
The only reason he wasn't drafted higher is because of the potential injury, because of the injury history and everything coming in.
And it says something when the great Jerry West, Jerry West, passes up on you twice because the Clippers had the 12th and the 13th pick in that draft, and they didn't take him.
But as long as he's
Jerry
healthy,
West doesn't usually miss.
As long as he's healthy, that offense is just going up and up and up.
Michael Porter's special. Yeah. I like Michael Porter. I want
to say this about the Mavs too. The way that team is constructed with Luka, if Porzingis stays healthy, now you add Redick. They have got Kleba is like 6'10". He shoots over 40%.
Here's the problem. You keep bringing up Porzingis and his health. I will say this about Porzingis because I wanted to say this about him when you mentioned him last week. There are certain guys that might be injury prone, but then you could be so much so that people get physical with you on purpose with the intent to not harm you or your career or anything, but they know you're relatively soft. See, when freak injuries happen, they just happen. They just come with the game. But in Porzingis' case, because he's 7'3",
he's a giant.
I think people look at him and say, look, man, all we got to do is get physical with him.
Look,
he can't take it. That's what they say.
Embiid is injury prone. AD is now sidelined. He's been injury prone throughout his career. Porzingis,
but Embiid is strong
and better.
But Embiid is strong, and he usually ends up injuring himself, like the way he came down on his leg and his knee locked in. Okay, rare. Anthony Davis, he's a finesse player. I'm not going to call him soft. He's a finesse player. But there are people on his own team who wish he was a bit tougher. And remember, we had him on the show. And you remember when the Clippers were talking about him. They were last year, before when they were supposed to meet the Lakers, they were talking about the thing about Anthony Davis is he's elite. You can't stop him. But you know that he's going to get hurt. Now, that didn't happen in last year's playoffs, but it happened this season.
But Luka now has everyone on the floor with him can bomb. Everyone on the floor can bomb. From the 1 through the 5, they can all bomb.
And Luka is a big-time passer.
Yep.
Yes. So Dallas could get very interesting. But I don't consider them better than Utah, the Clippers, or Denver. And we didn't even bring up Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, Phoenix went 8-0 in the bubble, added Chris Paul, hasn't looked back.
What about Phoenix? They're second in the West. Yeah, how come you guys haven't mentioned them?
Because they're relatively young. They have great coaching. Monty Williams and his staff are doing a phenomenal job. All right, and I think he's a Coach of the Year candidate. Chris Paul and his leadership. I actually think that Chris Paul, to some degree, should be in the MVP